Every night for 12 years, this man is hunted by monsters in his sleep. And every night, death in the dream sends him jolting back to reality. This agonizing loop between two worlds has left him utterly, bone-deeply exhausted. He honed himself into a master warrior just to endure the torment. But after 12 years, his only remaining wish is for a single night of sound sleep. Instead, his ravaged body finally gives out, and he dies. He awakens feeling a clarity he hasn't known in years, truly rested at last. But it's a cruel trick. His death in the real world has trapped him in his personal hell forever. Realizing there's no escape, a new grim determination takes root. So when the first monster approaches, he doesn't run for the first time. He feels an urge to fight. Finally free from his exhaustion, he unleashes 12 years of fury and cuts the beast down with ease. He knows what must be done to survive, consuming the monster's core to claim its strength. The man who is haunted by nightmares is gone, and in his place, a predator is born. Now fully in the demonic realm, our protagonist surveys his surroundings from a treetop perch. He stretches, feeling remarkably refreshed after another night of perfect sleep, a luxury he hasn't experienced in years. It's been a month since he crossed over, a time he spent adapting and surviving in this harsh wilderness. He reflects on his journey from the darkness of his past life toward the light, acknowledging the newfound urge to fight that now fills him. However, he remains pragmatic, knowing that hunting for sport and risking his life for fun would be utter madness. From his hiding spot, he observes a powerful bat-like monster feasting on its kill. And despite his cautious nature, he can't entirely suppress the instinctual urge to fight rising within him. He only hunts for two reasons: when he needs food or when he can obtain a new power. And right now, he's getting hungry. With hunger as his motivation, he launches a swift and deadly attack on the unsuspecting beast. And with a single brutal swing of his sword, he severs the monster. As for the second reason, it's to obtain a new power, which he finds in the form of a glowing essence within the monster. He doesn't hesitate, consuming the grotesque but powerful essence directly from the monster's corpse, because he knows that by eating these essences, he has a chance to absorb a monster's unique powers and grow stronger. This grim diet has been the key to his survival, making it easier for him to adapt to this dangerous world. While surviving, he has also made another important discovery about the body he now inhabits. Pulling out a token, he realizes he's taken over the body of a third-class mercenary and that he can miraculously read the local language. This mercenary token serves as solid evidence of this world's social structure. And the mere existence of such a token sparks a new hope within him. It's proof that people are living somewhere in this world, a beacon of light in the oppressive darkness. But his hopeful thoughts are abruptly cut short when he spots something unnatural on the forest floor. He stops in his tracks, shocked to find a man-made object hidden in the undergrowth. It's a large steel bear trap, a clear sign of human presence. The implications of his discovery immediately dawn on him. With a surge of excitement, he realizes that if there's a trap, there must be people nearby. Following the trail, he sprints toward a bright clearing ahead. His search pays off as he emerges from the woods to find a small, isolated house. After a month of solitude, he stares in disbelief. Having finally found a sign of civilization, he cautiously approaches the house, knocking and calling out to see if anyone is home. Finding no one inside, his eyes land on a single leather-bound book sitting on a table. Intrigued, he reaches out to examine the mysterious tome. He picks up the book and reads its title, Demonic Realm Chronicles. His eyes widen as he realizes the potential importance of his find. Eagerly, he flips through the pages, discovering a meticulous record of this world's history and lore. Clutching the book, he understands that this knowledge is absolutely essential for his survival. But his reading is interrupted by the sound of someone stepping into the house. A gruff, white-haired old man appears in the doorway, demanding to know who he is. The old man, Hector, aims a crossbow at him, threatening to shoot if he doesn't get a clear answer. While glad to see another person, a protagonist realizes he's been mistaken for a common robber. Therefore, he raises his hands placatingly, explaining that he simply stumbled upon the remote house out of curiosity. Hector is unmoved, gruffly ordering him to get lost. He reluctantly agrees to leave, but his gaze lingers on the invaluable book on the table. Just as he turns to go, he can't resist placing a hand on the book in a last-ditch effort and boldly asks if he can borrow the book, even offering to pay for it. Hector's eyes narrow suspiciously as he coldly asks what will happen if he refuses. Knowing his survival depends on it, the young man steels his resolve. His hand moves instinctively to the hilt of his sword. With his eyes glowing a dangerous red, he states that if Hector refuses, he might just have to become a robber after all. The two men face off, the tension thick as a fight seems inevitable. Hector holds his ground, his aim unwavering. Meanwhile, our protagonist assesses his opponent, confident in his own strength and unafraid of a fight. Breaking the tension, Hector lowers his weapon, noting that a real robber wouldn't ask to read a book before introducing himself. Sensing the immediate danger has passed, the young man introduces himself as Kim Win. Finding the name strange, Hector is asked to simply call him Jin, which he finds more agreeable. The protagonist, now Jin, sweats nervously, realizing his Korean name is difficult for the locals to pronounce. Hector explains that the book is too precious to be lent out, but offers Jin a compromise. He can stay and read it here. The deal is struck when Hector asks him to help with simple chores in return, and offer Jin gratefully accepts. And so he finds a temporary home in the middle of the dangerous demonic realm. Later, the aroma of a hot, bubbling stew fills the small cabin. Though Hector has a gruff exterior, his actions show he isn't a bad person, and he shares a meal with Jin. Jin is visibly moved, savoring the taste of warm soup for the first time in a very long while. The simple meal is so delicious it brings a tear to his eye. He jokingly thinks Hector might be an angel. The next morning, Hector prepares to leave for a hunt that he says might take some time. His determined expression reveals his true mission to hunt down the monster that killed his comrades and get revenge. Jin observes the old man's uncharacteristic nervousness, noting that even a strong man like him seems on edge. From his demeanor, he deduces that the monster Hector is hunting must be incredibly powerful. While alone, he buries himself in the demonic realm chronicles. Absorbing as much information as possible, he learns that the current state of the world traces its origins back to the once great Northern Empire. The chronicles tell of a greedy king who, seeking ultimate power, foolishly tampered with an otherworldly gate. His ambition backfired spectacularly when he was overwhelmed by the gate's immense and chaotic energy. That day marked the beginning of the calamity, as the gate was torn open, revealing a horde of malevolent eyes from another dimension. An endless tide of powerful monsters poured forth, transforming the entire northern continent into a demonic realm in just 9 years. To combat the threat, humanity's scattered factions united to form the Order Alliance, erecting a great barrier to halt the demonic spread. Just then, he closes the book. Having gained a crucial understanding of this world's tragic history, he reflects on the wealth of useful information he has learned. Connecting the dots, he realizes that since the monsters grew weaker as he traveled toward the light, he must have started deep within the demonic realm. Just then, Hector sprints back toward the cabin in a desperate panic. Meanwhile, Jin ponders how far into this hellish landscape he had wandered alone. Hector, gasping for breath, can't believe the strength of the monsters pursuing him. While Jin contemplates his own power level, a pack of woven beasts barrels through the forest after the old man. A massive muscular werewolf with glowing red eyes leads the terrifying pack. Hector pushes his aging body to its limit, fleeing for his life, but the monstrous wolves gain on him with terrifying speed. His foot slips, and he nearly falls, his stamina clearly fading. He desperately fires a volley of enchanted bolts at the lead monster. The werewolves, however, easily swat the projectiles away with their claws. Seeing his attack fail, Hector curses in frustration, realizing he is completely outmatched, and he runs again to save his life. Just then, Jin calmly steps out of the house, his large blade drawn and his eyes glowing red. Spotting him, Hector yells for him to run, desperately trying to warn him of the extreme danger. But Jin ignores the warning, bypassing the old man to intercept the monster. Hector can only look on in shock, unable to comprehend Jin's fearless advance. With cold determination, Jin locks eyes with the charging werewolf. Then he bursts forward, his speed far exceeding that of a normal human. In a stunning display of agility, he leaps high into the air, positioning himself above the beast. The werewolf looks up, roaring in fury as Jin prepares to strike. He brings his sword down in a devastating arc, cleaving straight through the monster's thick arm and shoulder. The powerful slash continues downward, bisecting the massive werewolf from head to toe in a single fluid motion. The two halves of the colossal beast crash heavily to the ground. The rest of the pack skids to a halt, snarling with a mix of fear and aggression at their leader's demise. Hector is left utterly speechless, his eyes wide with disbelief at what he just witnessed, and struggles to process the scene, realizing Jin took down the formidable werewolf in a single slash. The bisected corpse of the once mighty werewolf lies defeated in a pool of its own blood. Jin turns to face the stunned old man, his expression unreadable. With a nonchalant smirk, he casually asks, "Is this monster considered strong?" Still processing the scene, Hector can't believe he's even being asked if a werewolf is strong. With a grim expression, he confirms that the beast is in fact incredibly strong. Jin takes in this new information, his expression unreadable as he simply says, "I see." Turning his attention to the approaching pack, he decides to deal with the rest of the wolves before getting more details from Hector. The remaining wolves, led by a large red beast, charge forward to avenge their fallen alpha. Our guy quickly assesses the threat, noting there are about 40 wolves, not strong, but numerous enough to be a problem if he's careless. And so, he formulates a strategy. Instead of fighting the whole pack, he'll decapitate the leadership by killing the second in command to shatter their morale. With his eyes glowing red, he focuses his intent on his new target and identifies the large red wolf at the front of the pack as the one he needs to take down. Ignoring the lesser wolves, he leaps directly towards the pack leader, identifying it as the first one he needs to kill. As he closes in, he and the Red Scout wolf lock eyes, a moment of truth passing between them. But the red wolf hesitates, sensing an overwhelming killing intent it has never encountered before. In a shocking turn, the beast whimpers in terror and bolts, abandoning its pack and fleeing for its life. The would-be second in command yelps pathetically as it sprints away from the battlefield. The rest of the wolf pack freezes in utter confusion, watching their leader flee in cowardice. With their morale shattered, the entire pack follows their leader example and scrambles to escape. Hector is flabbergasted, wondering aloud how wolves known for their bravery could simply turn tail and run. Meanwhile, Jin smirks, impressed that the lead wolf was smart enough to properly assess the dire situation and save itself. The Red Scout wolf continues its panicked retreat, not daring to look back. Sometime later, back inside the safety of Hector's cabin, the situation has calmed down. Hector explains the massive bounty on the werewolf's head, revealing its worth at least 40 gold coins. At this, Jin asks if that's a lot of money, to which Hector confirms that it certainly is. He's shocked to learn that 40 gold is enough to live comfortably for 6 to 7 years without working. A realization dawned on him. If a creature he considers a trash monster has such a high bounty, a wide, confident smile spreads across his face as he understands the opportunity before him. Then he can simply hunt similar monsters whenever he needs cash, effectively creating an endless source of income. He concludes that life in this new world might actually be far easier than the 12 years of hell he endured. He then concludes that life in this new world might actually be far easier than the 12 years of hell he endured. As a reward and payment, Hector places provisions, coins, food, and a map on the valuable werewolf hide. He hands over a full kit to Jin, the werewolf hide, jerky, a pouch of silver coins, and a pioneer map. The old man instructs him to follow the map to Pioneer Village and find a man named Jacob to sell the hide. Jin is hesitant to accept such valuable items, but Hector assures him Jacob will offer a fair price and explains it's simply payment. As not only did the young man kill the werewolf, but he also settled the old hunter's own grudge against the beast. As a sign of gratitude and farewell, Hector offers his hand and sincerely thanks Jin for getting his revenge and wishes him well, hoping they might meet again someday. Jin accepts the handshake, thanking Hector for his hospitality and help. Having parted ways, he sets off from the secluded cabin. Hector watches from his porch as the young man who saved his life departs. Carrying his new gear and the valuable hide, Jin walks the path towards his first taste of civilization in this world. Along the way, he spots a familiar figure watching him from high cliff. It's the Red Scout wolf cautiously following him from a distance. Following the map, he finally arrives at the wooden fortifications of Pioneer Village. He takes a moment to observe the first human settlement he's seen since being trapped in this world. After being cleared by a guard, he enters the gates, noting that the town is quite well stocked. As he walks through the streets, he immediately notices the suspicious and hostile glares from the locals. A group of thugs size him up, clearly marking him as an outsider. He understands that everyone is on high alert because he's a stranger in their territory. Still, he considers their weariness understandable in such a harsh environment and reflects on a hard truth of this world. Sometimes people are far more dangerous than monsters. He makes his way to a local tavern, the most likely place to find information and his contact. The bustling tavern falls quiet as the heavily laden stranger steps inside. Ignoring the stares, he makes his way through the crowd towards the bar. As he approaches, he unloads the massive werewolf hide onto the counter, immediately drawing the attention of the barkeep. Declining the offer of a beer, he gets straight to business, asking for a man named Jacob. At the mention of the name, a rough-looking man sitting at the bar turns to face him. The man introduces himself as Jacob and, casually carving a piece of fruit, asks what he can do for him. Jin's first impression is immediate and certain. This man has the face of a scammer. Nevertheless, he explains that Hector sent him hoping to sell the werewolf hide. Jacob drops his knife in shock, exclaiming in disbelief that Hector actually managed to kill a werewolf. Seeing Jacob jump to the wrong conclusion, he decides it's better to let him believe Hector was the one who killed it. Jacob's demeanor shifts from shock to awe and greed as he confirms the hide is genuine. As his thugs gather, he mutters that he should have known the old veteran still had it in him. A wicked, greedy smile spreads across Jacob's face as he hatches a plan. With eyes full of avarice, he gloats that he knew Hector could pull it off, revealing his sinister intentions. Sensing the atmosphere change, Jin looks around to find himself surrounded by Jacob's men. With a cold look, he wearily asks what they think they're doing. Jacob mockingly drapes the hide over himself, telling Jin to get lost while he still can if he wants to live. His initial assessment was correct, and he calls Jacob out for betraying Hector's trust. Jacob merely justifies his theft as an investment, claiming that supplying Hector was a loss he now needs to recoup. With a smug look, he claims he needs the hide to make up for all his supposed losses. Jin's eyes flare with rage as he contemplates killing the man on the spot, but he forces himself to hold back. Reasoning that he can't kill a man over a mere hide, he tries to calm himself, thinking Jacob is lucky that he's a nice guy. But just as he shows restraint, Jacob provokes him further by throwing a drink in his face and taunts him, telling the kid not to get any clever ideas and to just get lost. Dripping with ale, Jin remains silent for a moment, his patience pushed to its absolute limit. Appearing to concede, he stands and turns to leave the tavern. He walks towards the door and intentionally drops his pouch of silver, seemingly abandoning everything to Jacob's crew. Jacob smirks, grabbing the hide, and believing the kid made the smart choice by backing down. But a sudden thud makes Jacob turn around, confused by the unexpected noise. To his shock, the young man hasn't left. Instead, he has hoisted a heavy wooden table over his shoulder. Jin calls out to Jacob, his back still turned. The confrontation clearly not over. With a menacing grin, he tells him that if he planned to scam someone, he should have gone for a killing blow, not a cheap shot. Realizing his opponent isn't backing down, Jacob snarls that he takes back his comment about him being smart. He orders his thugs to attack, shouting that the kid clearly doesn't value his life. With a battle cry, Jacob's men charge forward, ready to kill. They scream for him to die. Resigned to violence, our protagonist decides that killing scum like them won't cause him any guilt. In a flash, he dodges the first swing. His movement's far too quick for the thug to follow. The thug is stunned by the sheer force of the parry, realizing too late that his opponent is incredibly strong. Our guy's eyes glow with killing intent as he unleashes his true combat abilities. Moving with blinding speed, he carves through the charging thugs who are helpless against his assault. An axe-wielding thug brings his weapon down, aiming to crush him from behind, but he easily sidesteps the clumsy attack, letting the axe head smash into the floorboards. Using it as a lever, he kicks a heavy wooden table straight into the thug's face. The thug can only curse as the makeshift projectile smashes into him. The one-sided slaughter continues as our hero cuts down another one of Jacob's men. Splattered with blood, his cold, red eyes promise death to anyone still standing. A horrified Jacob stares at the carnage, wondering where this absolute monster could have possibly come from. Refusing to accept defeat, he steels himself, knowing he'll die for nothing if he doesn't fight back. Jin's blade flashes in a deadly arc, cutting down yet another thug, and he follows up with a brutal punch. The force of the blow pierces the man's chest, and finally bloodied, the man collapses to the ground. Our Gaius is a mask of cold indifference, the fight having been little more than an annoyance. Utterly terrified, Jacob screams at his few remaining conscious men to run for their lives. The survivors, including Jacob, scramble away from the tavern in a desperate bid to escape. They burst through a window and tumble into the street outside. But as Jacob picks himself up, he freezes, his escape blocked by an unexpected new threat. His eyes widen in sheer terror at the creature standing before him. The Red Scout wolf bars their path, and Jacob panics, wondering why a demonic beast is inside the village walls. Just then, Jin calmly steps out of the tavern, cornering them between himself and the wolf. Ignoring the terrified thugs, the red wolf walks directly towards Jin, its attention solely on him. He watches the approaching beast, confused by its behavior, and finally recognizes the creature as the scout wolf that had fled from him in the forest. Still radiating killing intent, he coldly asks the wolf if it came here to die. The wolf is instantly petrified by his menacing aura. It immediately drops to the ground and rolls over, whimpering in a gesture of complete submission. The massive demonic beast begins panting happily, wagging its bladed tails like a puppy wanting a belly rub. The wolf continues its bizarre display, squirming on the ground in front of him. Jacob and his men can only stare in utter disbelief, unable to comprehend what they are seeing. Even Jin is taken aback by the wolf's completely dog-like behavior. A sudden thought strikes him as he connects the wolf's fear with his current actions. Looking between the cornered thugs and the eagerly submissive demonic beast, he gets an idea. Pointing at Jacob's men, he gives the red wolf a simple one-word command. Bite. Overjoyed to receive an order, the wolf's eyes sparkle as it leaps into action. The beast pounces on the terrified thugs, its massive jaws wide open. The men scream in agony as the demonic beast begins its brutal attack. The brutal Mullen ends the confrontation in a spray of blood. Watching his new, terrifyingly obedient pet at work, Jin gives a single word of approval. Nice. Jacob watches in horror as the Red Scout Wolf, now under Jin's command, begins its ferocious attack on his thugs. Acting as Jin's shadow, the demonic wolf brutally mauls the henchman, its glowing blue eyes filled with predatory fury. Realizing he's completely outmatched, a panicked Jacob desperately tries to think of a way to escape his grim fate and concludes that the man is switching tactics. He and his man prostrate themselves, pathetically begging for their lives and promising to do anything asked of them. Yet, even while begging, he sees with resentment, secretly plotting his revenge for this humiliation. Jin, however, isn't fooled by the display and slams his massive sword into the ground just inches from Jacob's head as a clear warning. As the protagonist looms over him, the terrified thug stammers, "Sir," finally recognizing the absolute power difference. Internally, Jin scoffs at the man's audacity, disgusted by his cowardice. A sinister grin then creeps across his face as he relishes the moment, wondering who this bastard thinks he can fool. The situation triggers a flashback to his past life, where a smarmy factory manager feigned an apology for delaying his salary. He remembers the manager's manipulative excuses, always citing the company's poor financial situation. Back then, he was too soft-hearted and felt he had no choice but to accept the constant lies and exploitation. He then recalls the painful lesson that giving in once only led to further delays with his salary being held back for months on end. When he finally confronted his manager again, the man was casually practicing his golf swing in the office. The manager had reacted with disdain, calling him a punk for daring to ask for the money he was owed. Adding insult to injury, the man then guilt-tripped him, branding him as selfish for not sticking together during tough times. Back in the present, the memory of being treated like a pushover fuels his resolve. He will not let it happen again. He walks past Jacob, ominously stating that he learned a very important lesson from his past. Jacob can only stare in silent terror, realizing that his pleas for mercy have failed completely. But as Jin turns his back, Jacob sees an opening and a desperate, foolish grin spreads across his face. He lunges from behind, knife in hand in a last-ditch effort to kill him. With a wild cry, he brings the knife down, aiming for a fatal blow. But with his battle-honed senses, Jin pivots in an instant, his red eyes glowing with deadly intent. Effortlessly blocking the pathetic attack, he declares that it's scammers like him who are incapable of understanding the meaning of remorse. The look of pure, unadulterated fear on Jacob's face says it all. He knows he's about to die. In a blur of motion, he delivers a decisive strike, cutting off his head. Jacob's head is severed from his body, his life ending in a spray of blood. With glowing red eyes, Jin stares down at the corpse, his mind made up, and he vows to himself that he will never be taken for a pushover ever again. With the human threats eliminated, he turns his attention to his non-human follower and contemplates what to do with the Red Scout Wolf, whom he casually refers to as that mutt. The wolf, seemingly understanding him, then drops a pouch of gold at his feet as an offering. Jin sees that the pouch is filled with the gold coins Jacob had tried to steal from him. Pondering the gesture, he is impressed by the demonic beast's intelligence. He asks the wolf directly if it wants to tag along, and the beast responds with an expectant look. Confirming its desire, the Red Scout Wolf affectionately nuzzles up against him. A rare, faint smile touches Jin's lips as he accepts the creature's silent pledge of loyalty. Patting its head, he acknowledges the wolf as a clever thing. He then officially welcomes his new companion, telling the beast, "Let's get along from now on, Mud." Having acquired a new ally and some starting capital, he sets his sights on civilization. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, he wakes up in a comfortable bed after a full night's sleep. His wolf companion resting nearby, he savors the refreshing feeling of a perfect, deep sleep, a luxury his old life never afforded him. Both man and beast stretch in unison, enjoying a peaceful morning. While washing his blood-soaked clothes, Jin reveals a back covered in the scars of 12 years of nightmarish battles. He then takes a moment to reflect, contemplating the bloody events that have just transpired, and acknowledges that he's killed people for the first time, not just one, but many. However, he ponders the unsettling realization that he feels absolutely no guilt for his actions. He knows it's not simply because they were scum. The emotion he felt was something else entirely. He recognizes the feeling as the same exhilarating thrill he gets from hunting monsters. Clutching his chest, he senses a fundamental and perhaps dangerous change happening within him. Looking at his own hand, he quietly accepts this internal transformation. Though he briefly wonders if he's cursed, he shrugs it off, deciding that survival is all that matters, and he is now certain that his new life in this world will be nothing like his old one. With his new demonic beast companion by his side, he resolves to live a life of abundance and simply enjoy the present. Following the information from Hector's chronicles, he and his wolf arrive at the 5th Pioneer City to cash in the werewolf pelt. He instructs his companion to stay hidden as demonic beasts aren't welcome within the city walls. He then confidently strides through the streets of the Pioneer City, heading towards the Order Alliance to claim his bounty, and recalls that the Order Alliance is the designated place for monster bounties and briefly reconsiders nickname for his new intelligent ally. Soon he locates the Order Alliance building, spotting a lazily-looking clerk stretching on a balcony. He approaches the bored clerk, who barely acknowledges him before asking what he wants. Jin makes his presence known by slamming the massive rolled-up werewolf pelt on the counter, startling the clerk. Ignoring the man's surprise, he coolly states that he's here to collect a monster bounty. The clerk eyes the bundle dismissively, scoffing that it's just dog skin and that the Alliance is no place for pranks. However, upon closer inspection, his eyes widen in disbelief. His condescending attitude vanishes instantly as he realizes he's looking at a genuine high-value werewolf pelt. The flabbergasted clerk stammers, barely able to ask if Jin actually hunted the formidable beast himself. Jin calmly confirms the kill, and his nonchalant attitude further shocks the young man. Given the value of the pelt, he is escorted to a private room to wait while it's officially authenticated. A senior official from the Order Alliance enters, apologizing for the delay and explaining the need for verification. The official confirms the pelt is authentic and presents Jin with a large pouch of gold as his reward. Jin assesses the reward, quickly calculating that it's enough money to live a lazy life for at least 6 or 7 years. Holding the gold, he feels a new kind of trembling, a thrill different from the one he gets during a hunt. A greedy smile spreads across his face as he concludes that having money is definitely a good thing. Just as he is about to take his leave, the senior official stops him. The official, clearly impressed by the werewolf hunt, asks if he would be interested in taking on another request. His interest piqued by the prospect of more money. He listens to the offer. The official explains that a monster has appeared in a nearby quarry, causing a huge problem for the city. Its presence has halted the mining of valuable bloodstone, bringing the city's economy to the brink of ruin. He then warns him that this new monster is rumored to be even stronger than a werewolf. Confident that the man who slew a werewolf can handle it, the official formally offers him a quest. Ever the professional hunter, Jin cuts straight to the chase, asking for the monster's identity. The official reveals the target's ominous name, Mad Skull. And to sweeten the deal, he mentions the monster has a bounty of 70 gold coins, significantly more than the werewolf. Jin's expression shifts. He recognizes the name Mad Skull from the Demonic Realm Chronicles. More than that, a flashback confirms he's faced this very type of monster countless times in his 12 years of Dream World battles. He vividly recalls its defining feature, a ridiculously hard skull scarred with an axe, and also remembers its insane aggression and its toughness and strength, which are on a completely different level from a werewolf. Jin grimaces, recalling that the first time he managed to kill one, it took him a month and cost him 28 lives. Unaware of this history, the official asks if he believes he can subdue the beast. Jin pauses, considering how his current fully rested self compares to his past, exhausted one. A predatory and confident grin then spreads across his face as he accepts the challenge, declaring, "Of course, my next prey has been decided." The setting for the next hunt is an expansive abandoned quarry, home to the formidable Mad Skull. Into this territory arrives our protagonist, Jin, recalling that the quarry's operations were halted entirely because of this one monster. As he surveys the desolate mine, a chill runs down his spine, and he resolves to finish the job as quickly as possible. Just as he's about to proceed, however, a voice calls out, telling him to wait. He turns to find himself confronted by a group of mercenaries who claim they arrived first and are already preparing for battle. Unimpressed, he scoffs at the very idea of a waiting line for monster hunting. His dismissive attitude seems to slightly fluster the mercenary captain. So, changing his approach, the captain invites him to join their team to hunt the Mad Skull together. Jin considers his options while waiting for them would be a waste of time. He'd rather not fight them over it. He briefly entertains the idea of teamwork, even as one of the other mercenaries worries aloud about splitting the loot further. But remembering his past betrayals, our protagonist is immediately on guard, unable to easily trust anyone in this world. So he questions their motives, asking why a large mercenary group would need his help. The captain, Jonathan, sheepishly admits that he prioritizes safety over raw power, hinting at his team's shortcomings. Switching to a more respectful tone, Jonathan states that he believes Jin is strong and will be a valuable asset to their hunt. Jin senses the shift in demeanor, recognizing it as the difference of the weak to the strong, and asks for the basis of this assumption. Jonathan shrewdly points out that a powerful wolf monster wouldn't follow a weak master. And right on cue, the group's mage, a young woman named Claire, is seen affectionately petting Jin's red scout wolf. She marvels at the sight, noting that wolf monsters are fiercely independent and are rarely tamed, even by the Order Alliance. Jin, however, is internally annoyed, wondering when his disobedient wolf, whom he told to stay hidden, decided to reveal itself, and quickly realizes his companion was bribed with a juicy piece of meat, a luxury he himself hasn't enjoyed. Caught red-pawed, the wolf freezes with a guilty look on its face. Startled by its master's glare, the beast drops the coveted meat onto the ground. Our guy silently fumes, aghast that his powerful, demonic beast was swayed by a simple piece of meat. However, the aroma of the cooked food causes an involuntary reaction from the starving hunter. His body moves on its own, his hunger reminding him it has been ages since he had a proper meal. A brief but intense internal battle ensues over his dignity versus eating dropped food that was just in a dog's mouth. Just as he's about to give in to his primal hunger, a gentle hand stops him. It's Claire kindly offering him a fresh piece of meat after seeing how hungry he is. Stunned by this simple act of compassion, Jin stares at her in disbelief. This unexpected kindness melts his hardened heart, and in his starved state, he sees her as a trustworthy goddess, sealing his decision to join them. Having accepted their offer, he follows the Black Marlin mercenary group deeper into the quarry. He savors the delicious meal, a world away from the raw monster meat he has been subsisting on. Realizing they skipped formalities, Claire initiates introductions. The leader introduces himself as Jonathan, the captain of the Black Marlin mercenary group, and the kind-hearted mage introduces herself as Claire. Catching himself before using his name from Earth, our protagonist simply introduces himself as Jin, officially joining their party. Jonathan gives a subtle, knowing smile, pleased with the new addition to his team. Arriving at a large pit, the captain begins commanding his trap team to set up their nets. He then orders the spear team to move into their assigned positions for the ambush. With the teams in place, Jonathan tells Claire it's time for them to begin their own preparations. Suddenly, Jin is taken aback as a wave of magical energy begins to swirl around him. He watches in awe as Claire floats into the air, channeling power from her grimoire. Our guy recognizes this phenomenon as magic, something he'd only ever read about in the Demonic Realm Chronicles. Claire casts her spell, asking for blessings to be sent upon the land. The Featherstep ability envelopes the party, making them feel lighter and faster. Jonathan praises her, commenting that her buffs are as excellent as ever. Claire informs them the speed enhancement will last for 3 minutes, 5 at most. Feeling the buff's effects, the captain tells everyone to stay ready. He then dashes off, announcing that he will lure the Mad Skull into their trap. Jin is genuinely impressed by Jonathan's sudden speed, admitting to himself that magic is pretty cool. For a moment, he wistfully wonders if he could learn to use magic as well. Just then, a lookout's frantic shout cuts through the air, warning everyone that the Mad Skull is approaching. The mercenaries ready their trap, knowing that a single mistake against such a beast could mean death for them all. Jin observes their strategy of luring the monster into a trap for a focused assault, deeming it a solid, if simple, plan. However, given his experience, he harbors serious doubts that such a basic strategy will be enough to take down a Mad Skull. Boosted by Claire's magic, Jonathan dashes, followed by the monster. Just then, he screams for the trap team to spring their ambush. Jonathan successfully baits the enraged Mad Skull, leading it directly into the kill zone. The trap team unleashes their net, perfectly timing it to ensnare the charging beast. The mercenaries pull on the ropes with all their might, securing the powerful monster, and just like that, the Mad Skull is tangled in the heavy-duty net. With the monster immobilized, Jonathan orders the spear team to attack. The spear-wielding mercenaries rush forward to strike. They plunge their weapons into the trapped Mad Skull's hide, but to their horror, the spears barely scratch the monster's tough skin, making a grating metallic sound. The spearmen are thrown off balance as their attacks prove completely ineffective. Enraged, the Mad Skull begins to flex its immense power against the restraints. Jin watches grimly, knowing the situation is about to turn dire. As he predicted, the mercenaries are being completely overpowered by the monster's raw strength. The trapped team struggles, crying out as they are dragged around, unable to hold the beast down. With a powerful surge, the Mad Skull begins to rip the net to shreds. The monster's eye glows with fury as it breaks free from the now useless trap. Now unrestrained, it charges headlong towards the nearest target, the terrified mage, Claire. She is paralyzed with fear as the monstrous beast thunders towards her. But in the blink of an eye, Jin appears in front of her, shielding her from the attack. He stands his ground, calmly, facing down the unstoppable charge, and he catches the Mad Skull's massive tusks. The rampaging beast is brought to a dead stop, its incredible momentum completely nullified by Jin's overwhelming power. Claire, still in shock, cries out a warning for him to be careful. Without even looking back, he calmly tells her not to worry. Then, with a confident smirk, he reveals to the astonished group that he knows exactly how to defeat a Mad Skull. The fight begins, and he single-handedly braces himself against the Mad Skull's powerful charge, grabbing it by the tusks. Despite his immense strength, he struggles to hold the monster at bay. The creature's raw power proves overwhelming as it frees itself from our guy's grip. At this, he grits his teeth, his hand tightening on his sword. Finding an opening, he swings his blade, but it bounces futilely off the Mad Skull's thick armored hide. Knocked off balance, he reflects that even though he's gotten stronger, this monster's power is on another level. The Mad Skull lets out a roar as if to confirm his assessment. Letting his guard down for just a moment, he finds himself nearly overwhelmed by the beast's strength. Suddenly, a mysterious green aura envelopes him, catching him by surprise. From a safe distance, Claire casts a support spell, yelling, "I'll help too." Just as he's sent flying, he lands gracefully, feeling the effects of the magic buff, and noting that his body feels significantly lighter. A smile creeps across his face as he realizes her buff will allow him to use that method to hunt the beast more easily. When Jonathan and the others try to help, he urgently shouts for them to stay back. The mercenaries halt, confused by his command to stay out of the fight. Now surrounded by the magical aura, he prepares to re-engage the Mad Skull. He dashes past the beast, declaring that for this particular hunt, it's easier if he fights alone. And so his lecture begins. He explains that hunting a Mad Skull is simple if you know a few key things. First, despite its fearsome name, it's just a pig that runs incredibly fast in a straight line. Its critical weakness, however, is that it's terrible at turning, a flaw he easily exploits. His strategy is to use this lack of agility to stop the beast in its tracks. Now much faster thanks to Claire's buff, he leads the charging Mad Skull straight into a large wooden structure. The beast crashes head first, screeching in frustration and pain. Just then, our guy notes how the buff has made it even harder for the monster to keep up and prepares for the second step of his plan. He continues his explanation, stating that the beast's long tusks function like a human's hands. However, since the tusks are too hard to be cut by a sword, he has to find another way. Declaring that he'll aim for its weak point, he leaps into the air and delivers a devastating slash to the Mad Skull's sensitive nose. The monster lets out an agonized shriek as blood erupts from the deep gash on its snout, and he knows that with such an injury, the pain will make it too difficult for the creature to continue its assault. With the Mad Skull crippled and reeling, he closes in to finish the job. First, he swiftly slices through the beast's front leg tendons. Then, he follows up by severing the tendons in its hind legs, completely immobilizing it. Standing over the fallen beast, he states that it won't get another chance to attack. A chillingly satisfied smile spreads across his face as he savors his victory. Just as the battle concludes, Jonathan, Claire, and the rest of the mercenaries rush back into the quarry. Surveying the wreckage, a worried Claire insists they find Jin first, but their search is cut short when they're startled by a menacing figure. It's Jin's red scout wolf, standing guard and growling defensively at the approaching mercenaries. Jonathan instinctively pulls a startled Claire behind him for protection. As the massive wolf looms over them, Claire correctly guesses that it's warning them not to interfere. The group relaxes as Jin appears from behind his loyal companion. Jonathan anxiously asks about the Mad Skull, while our protagonist internally laments his inability to resist consuming the monster's essence. However, he coolly informs the confused mercenaries that there is no Mad Skull anymore. Pointing at the massive, bloody carcass on the ground, he casually jokes, "Now all that's left is pork." The mercenaries are flabbergasted, exclaiming that they've never heard of anyone taking down a Mad Skull solo. Suddenly, the Red Scout wolf begins sniffing the air and whimpering nervously. It turns and lets out an aggressive growl toward the quarry's entrance, alerting the group to a new threat. And from the shadows emerges a second, even larger Mad Skull, its eyes glowing with menace. Panicked, Jonathan shouts for everyone to prepare for another battle, cursing their rotten luck. However, Claire quickly stops him, telling him to wait as she's noticed something different about this new arrival. The mercenaries see that this Mad Skull is a mother, accompanied by her two small piglets. The sad piglets oink plaintively at the scene before them. The mother Mad Skull gazes upon the body of her fallen mate, letting out a guttural, mournful sound. Jin and his wolf watch the somber scene unfold, not interfering. Just then, the mother turns to her children. The entire group watches in silence. To their surprise, the mother begins to lead her young away from the quarry. Claire feels a pang of guilt, realizing the monsters had likely planned to raise their young in the quarry they had just cleared. However, the captain watches them go, simply glad that the situation resolved itself peacefully. Later that night, the victorious group returns to the 5th Pioneer City. They head straight for a local tavern to celebrate their hard-won success. Inside, Jonathan raises a toast, cheering that everyone made it back without serious injury after taking down the Mad Skull. With a flourish, he announces that it's time for the highlight of any hunt, settlement time. The mercenaries roar with excitement, eager to receive their reward. Claire and Jin look on, confused, as the bags of gold seem to contain far more than the promised 70 coins. Jonathan proudly takes credit, explaining that he made a big fuss to secure a larger payment. He reveals his tactic. He told the quest givers there were 2 Mad Skulls and piglets, exaggerating the danger to demand a bigger reward. Beaming, he announces he negotiated a massive payout of 100 gold coins, and his men cheer for their clever captain. Jin points out the obvious flaw that they didn't actually fight the mother, but Jonathan just deflects with a casual, about that. At this, he flashes a sly grin, admitting that he told a little white lie to secure the extra gold. The mercenaries erupt in laughter, praising their captain's motto, "If you don't get caught, it becomes the truth." Our protagonist watches the exchange with a slight smile, musing that they are certainly an interesting group of people. Jonathan then gets his attention with a friendly hand on his shoulder. He then shocks everyone by announcing his intention to give half of the entire reward to Jin. Jin is stunned by the incredibly generous offer, questioning if he heard correctly. Jonathan insists, stating plainly that without his help, they all would have died, so he should accept the payment happily, and explains that because he inflated the reward, there's more than enough to go around, and sharing with Jin is what everyone wants. Touched, Jin reflects that the team's buff and trap were genuinely helpful after all. He accepts a mug of ale, concluding with a warm feeling that perhaps not everyone in this world is bad. In a show of gratitude, he stands and declares that he'll pay for all the drinks tonight, causing the tavern to erupt in cheers. The mercenaries joyfully accept his offer, and the celebration kicks into high gear. During the festivities, he notices Claire quietly slipping away from the table. He asks where she's going, and she replies that she's off to practice her magic. Our guy is intrigued by her dedication and newfound power. Later, he follows her to a quiet spot outside the city, where he finds her meditating under the full moon, enveloped in magical energy. Watching from a distance, he's impressed that she's training so soon after such an exhausting hunt. The sight of her power makes him contemplate the very nature of magic. As he observes her serene practice, he wonders to himself if he too should try learning magic. As they prepare to leave town, Claire readily agrees to teach Jin magic, much to his surprise. She then explains that she was already planning to give him a gift as thanks anyway, with a bit of shade thrown at Jonathan. She adds that since Jin saved her from the Mad Skull, teaching him magic is the least she can do. She praises him, noting that he understands the basics of combat by protecting his mage, unlike some other mercenary groups. Just then, Jonathan cuts in, reminding everyone that magic can't be learned overnight, and their group has to leave the village in 2 days. When Claire suggests Jin simply travel with them, Jonathan questions why a powerful monster hunter like him would want to tag along with mercenaries. He then tries to speak for Jin, claiming a brave wolf is most comfortable alone and that they shouldn't intrude on his journey. Feeling pressured by the grand assumptions and having nowhere else to go, our protagonist decides he'll have to tell a little lie. So, he asks Jonathan for their next destination and learns the group is heading to the 4th Pioneer City for a big job. Seizing the opportunity, Jin lies that he was also planning on going there and asks if he can join them. Jonathan and Claire see right through his terrible lie, but are clearly amused and happy to have him along. Both of them enthusiastically welcome him to the group, proclaiming what a coincidence it is and how great it is to have a reliable ally. With his travel plan secured, he smirks as their next destination is officially decided. And so the Black Marlin mercenary group, now with Jin in their ranks, begins their long journey alongside a colossal reptilian beast of burden. This massive creature is a Tarrasque, a monster selectively bred and tamed by humans for transportation. Recognizing the beast from the chronicles he'd read, our protagonist marvels at the terrace's absolutely massive scale. With Jonathan cheerfully rallying the group, the party sets off on their long road to the next city. 10 days into their journey, however, Jin is struggling to learn the first step of magic. Finding it difficult to sense the flow of mana, he reflects on the painful nature of learning through sheer repetition, especially when progress feels non-existent. However, he knows that growth in some areas is only possible through slow, repetitive practice, recalling Claire's effortless demonstration from before. And though he admits the process is hard and can lead to painful plateaus, he remains undeterred. Drawing on his past, he reaffirms that he is all too used to this kind of pain. After all, he survived 12 brutal years in the demonic realm, a trial that has forged his incredible endurance and willpower. Under the full moon, he continues his relentless training, determined to succeed through sheer persistence. Finally, after countless hours of repeating the process, he feels a spark of mana ignite within him. A wisp of blue energy appears as a result of his efforts, a familiar outcome for someone so used to grinding for results. Jolted awake by the spark, Claire excitedly announces that he has just succeeded in feeling magic for the first time. He acknowledges how difficult it was, noting that it took a full 10 days just to get a feel for it. But she praises his effort, explaining that while he's on the slow side, it's still an excellent achievement since many people never sense mana at all. With the first step complete, she moves on to the second stage of his magic training. She then pours a glowing blue liquid, likely a mana potion, into a small silver basin. Then, with a sly smile, she instructs him to take off his shirt for the next step of the lesson. He is momentarily stunned and confused by her unexpected command. Unfazed, she simply dips her gloved finger into the mana-infused liquid. Preparing for the ritual, she explains that she's going to draw a magic circle on his back to create a path for directly injecting mana into his body. Once the intricate circle is complete, she tells him to focus as she begins the injection. He steels himself, ready for the next phase of his training. Claire places her hand on his back, activating the magic circle and beginning the mana transfer. An intense surge of blue energy immediately courses through his body. He's overwhelmed by the feeling, which is on a totally different scale from what he had managed on his own. Focusing inward, he senses something thicker and more powerful than blood flowing deep inside him, and he confirms to a concerned Claire that he can feel the mana flowing through him. Relieved, she explains that he has now completed the first of the 3 basic stages of learning magic. The 3 stages, she elaborates, are feeling mana, storing it within one's body, and finally utilizing that stored magic. Now that he has succeeded in stage 1, she announces they will proceed to stage 2 and instructs him to create a vessel inside his body to store the magic. Using the sensation of holding his breath as a guide, the young man concentrates, preparing his body to store the incoming mana. With a burst of energy, she begins to channel her mana into him. The magic circle on his back glows intensely as the process starts. But something immediately goes wrong. The mana connection gives her a horrifying glimpse into his mental world, a nightmarish landscape filled with monsters. She is assaulted by visceral images of the grotesque creatures he has fought and killed over the years. Her vision is flooded with the endless horrors that have shaped his very psyche. The sheer number and terror of the creatures in his mind is overwhelming. Then suddenly a dark, ominous energy flows back from him, shocking her to her core. She reels back in terror as she feels her own power being affected. Instead of storing the mana, his body begins to violently absorb it directly from her. She panics, realizing that at this rate, all of her mana will be drained completely. But just before she passes out, the Red Scout wolf's bladed tail whips out and wraps around her. The wolf yanks her away, severing the dangerous connection and saving her from being drained dry. Landing safely, a dazed Claire is shocked to see that the demonic beast has intervened. The loyal beast places itself protectively between her and its master. She realizes it must have sensed she was in grave danger and came to help. As the mana subsides, Jin snaps out of his trance and turns to her with a look of concern. Completely unaware of what just happened, he asks the shaken woman if she's okay. Still processing the horrifying vision, she realizes she just saw his mental world and recalls that a mental world is a manifestation of a person's power and nature shaped by their experiences. Each one is unique, reflecting the life its owner has lived. Trembling, she questions what could have possibly caused such an ominous and monstrous presence to exist in his mind. Now, deeply concerned, she asks him to answer a question for her with complete honesty. With a grim expression, she asks if he has ever eaten a monster's internal core. He looks back, unfamiliar with the term she used. After she clarifies that she means the crystal inside a monster's body, he recognizes it as a monster essence and casually confirms that he's eaten them. Utterly horrified, she grabs him and demands to know when he started and how many he has consumed. He nonchalantly reveals he's been eating them continuously for about 10 years, casually estimating the number to be in the tens of thousands. When he asks if there's a problem, a frantic Claire screams that of course there's a problem. She begins to explain the terrifying consequences of consuming monster cores, and she delivers the chilling revelation. Any human who eats an internal core will either die or turn into a monster. As her words hang in the air, he looks up into the moonlight, his eyes glowing a menacing red, leaving his true nature in terrifying doubt. The narration explains the nature of the demonic realm, starting with a concept known as karma or retribution. This karma is a turbid energy that upon absorption grants living beings bizarre and monstrous abilities. A monster core, it is revealed, is a nucleus formed by the accumulation of this dark energy within a being. The scene then returns to the Black Marlin mercenary group as they travel together. Claire's thoughts drift back to her shocking discovery about the protagonist, whom she now mentally connects to the legend of the Dark Priests. In a flashback, she recalls the world's history, remembering the day the otherworldly gate opened and unleashed karma upon the land. This event gave rise to the Dark Priests, madmen who followed monsters, absorbed their karma, and consumed their cores. These fanatical priests became so twisted that they even began sacrificing humans to the demonic beasts they worshipped. She then remembers his chilling confession that he has been hunting and eating monster cores for 10 years, having consumed tens of thousands of them. She struggles internally with the horrifying possibility that his habit of eating monster cores makes him one of these dark priests. However, she quickly dismisses the idea, reasoning that a true dark priest would never have so openly admitted his actions or shown her his mental world. Still, she finds it incredibly strange that he would consume monster cores without any awareness of the inherent danger. She visualizes a carefree version of him casually snacking on a monster part mid-journey, and she remains completely baffled as to why anyone would ever pick up and eat such disgusting things, concluding that he is simply a mysterious man. And Aside reveals that he only started eating cores after observing other monsters do it. Back in the present, Claire urgently warns him to stop eating monster cores immediately, telling him he's only been lucky so far and could die. He internally questions her warning, thinking of himself as living proof that consuming cores isn't necessarily fatal. Yet, he begins to wonder if her words hold some truth, questioning if the cores are the reason he felt nothing after killing people. His eye glows red as he contemplates a terrifying possibility. Could his constant desire to fight be a side effect of the monster cores? However, he nonchalantly agrees to try, which only infuriates Claire, who demands he stop absolutely and never do it again. To get through to him, she warns that continuing to eat cores will also prevent him from being able to use magic. The threat of losing his ability to learn magic finally gets his attention, much to her exasperation. Sighing, she explains that while mana manifestation will be difficult for him, he shouldn't worry too much and reveals a silver lining. He should still be able to learn and use mana arts. Unfamiliar with the term, he curiously asks what monarchs are, but the conversation is put on hold as the group arrives at their destination, the fourth pioneer city. There in the city square, they find a massive crowd of mercenaries gathered before a large crystal pillar. Our protagonist notes the sheer number of mercenaries, but Claire hints that the scale of the gathering is due to more than just the job. The reason for the commotion is then revealed. The high-profile request is being personally overseen by a holy knight. The imposing holy knight, Raymond, makes his presence known, standing stoically beside his apprentice. Jin is visibly impressed by the powerful figure before him, and he immediately senses the knight's intense aura, recognizing that he is on a completely different level from ordinary humans. He then asks why a holy knight's presence would draw such a large crowd, and she explains the job comes from the golden bug wolf. Thinking it's a monster, his question makes Claire sigh at his singular focus on hunting. She laments that he truly seems to know nothing about the world beyond fighting monsters. Jonathan clarifies that the golden bug is the world's greatest businessman, a tycoon of immense wealth. He then drops a bombshell. The incredibly wealthy merchant died, suddenly and recently. When Jin asks if he was killed, Jonathan admits that there are rumors, but nothing has been confirmed. The reason for the gathering becomes clear. The golden bug left behind 2 sons and an immense fortune. The mission, therefore, is to escort the 2 sons and move their inherited legacy safely inside the city's barrier. And the scale of the golden bug's treasure is immense, making the escort mission an incredibly lucrative request. Our protagonist now understands completely why moving a tycoon's fortune would attract such a massive crowd of mercenaries. Just then, an official calls for the Black Marlin mercenary group to step forward for their assessment. Jonathan excitedly pushes Jin and declares that it's their turn, that this is the most important moment. He proudly presents our guy to the Holy Knight as his group's ace, the man who tamed a werewolf and defeated a mad skull. The crowd begins to murmur, recognizing the rumored head crusher, though they are surprised by his unassuming appearance. Confused by the ridiculous nickname, Jonathan tells him to just play along for the sake of the job. The Holy Knight, Raymond, gives them a cold, discerning look, sizing up the mercenary and his so-called ace. Impressed enough, he hires the Black Marlin group for the handsome sum of 100 gold coins, telling them to be ready by sunrise. A bewildered Jin can't believe they're getting paid 100 gold coins just for moving luggage. Jonathan winks, explaining that in their line of work, the hiring fee is split between labor and name value, and praises our protagonist, saying his reputation as the head crushers is what secured them such a high-paying contract. Jonathan finally explains the nickname to the clueless protagonist. It's because he literally crushes the heads of the monsters he fights. Our guide deadpants, thinking that whoever came up with that name has a terrible sense of style. While Jonathan celebrates hitting the jackpot, Jin is already thinking one step ahead. With his fame growing, he believes this newfound notoriety will be the key to his plan of learning Mona arts. Later that night, the mercenaries unwind at their quarters. Inside, a raucous crowd cheers on a bare-knuckle brawl taking place in a fighting arena. The fights are brutal, with one brawler getting his face smashed in by a powerful punch. A concerned Claire watches him wrap his hands, but he reassures her, stating that since Holy Knights use mono arts, this arena is the perfect stage. He tells her not to worry, revealing that he has a plan to draw the Holy Knights' attention so he can learn their techniques. He then recalls reading in the Demonic Realm Chronicles that Holy Knights are always interested when they see someone strong. The Chronicles also stated that earning a Holy Knight's acknowledgement can lead to favorable treatment. Confident in his overwhelming strength, he steps into the arena, certain that getting noticed won't be difficult. His goal is clear: to use this arena, where reputations are on the line, to force the Holy Knight to notice him. The fight begins, and he immediately dodges his first opponent's wild swing and counters with a single devastating punch that shatters his opponent's nose. Then, grabbing the dazed fighter by the head, he prepares to end the match decisively and drives a powerful headbutt into his opponent's face, knocking him out instantly. The crowd erupts with onlookers cheering for the head crushers as new challengers eagerly step up to face him. Watching from a balcony, Raymond takes a slow set from his mug. Our protagonist notes with satisfaction that his plan to get noticed is working. However, he knows that simple attention isn't enough. His real plan is just getting started. To truly make the Holy Knight take him seriously, he mercilessly continues to defeat every challenger who steps into the ring. One by one, he dispatches his opponents with brutal efficiency. He calculates that after defeating a few more fighters, the knight will start to wonder about his origins. After defeating dozens of opponents, he stands alone in the ring, his message of overwhelming strength clearly delivered, and anticipates that a true knight witnessing such a display would feel compelled to test this unknown warrior's mettle himself. And just as he predicted, Raymond turns to his apprentice and orders, "Rex, fight that guy." The apprentice, Rex, is insulted by the command, shocked that he is being told to fight a mere mercenary. Jin smirks, knowing that this is the exact moment his true plan begins to unfold. His next move is to refuse the fight, which he believes will force a confrontation and begin his negotiations to learn mana arts. Rex's eyes widen in disbelief and fury at our protagonist's unspoken but clearly intended defiance. The scene is set at the mercenary dormitory's arena, where the fateful duel was supposed to unfold. Claire, watching from the stands, is utterly bewildered by Jin's decision to refuse the fight. Jonathan, the Black Marlin captain, is just as confused as his mage by the bizarre tactic. Meanwhile, the crowd of mercenaries can't believe what they're hearing, murmuring in confusion. An I-8 Rex leans over the railing, demanding to know why Jin is refusing to fight. While the apprentice sees with indignation, Holy Knight Raymond calmly observes the situation. Raymond addresses Jin directly, asking if he's injured in an attempt to understand his motives. Jin casually dismisses the concern with a wave, claiming he's perfectly fine. Unconvinced, Raymond presses him again, asking for the real reason he is refusing the duel. Jin declares his identity as a mercenary, one who pursues money and power above all else, and explains that because he is a mercenary, he can't simply fight a prestigious Holy Knight apprentice for free. With a confident smirk, he shifts the terms of the engagement and proposes they make a bet instead. Raymond scoffs at the idea, questioning what a mere mercenary could possibly offer that he would desire. In response, Jin reveals his wager, a massive pouch of gold, boasting that he has an ungodly amount of money. The onlooking crowd erupts, laughing at the sheer audacity of trying to gamble with a pious Holy Knight. Rex grits his teeth in anger, deeply insulted by the mercenary's crash proposal. But Raymond holds his apprentice back, coolly, stating that they have no need for his money. Instead of accepting the gold, he offers a counter-proposal of his own. The Holy Knight's terms are simple. They will waive all liability for any injuries sustained in the fight. His piercing gaze reveals his intent. He wants Rex to fight without restraint and end this mockery. Jin gleefully accepts, internally celebrating that he can now beat Rex up without consequences and still get what he wants. With the terms set, Jin and Rex finally face off in the center of the arena. Rex glares at his opponent, filled with rage and the determination to uphold his honor. Jin meets his gaze with cold, unwavering focus, ready for the battle to begin. The crowd roars, betting heavily and cheering for their favorite, the notorious head crusher. Jonathan and Claire offer their support, but Jin confidently reassures them not to worry. "I'll win," he declares with a confident smile. Following Raymond's order to give it his all, Rex prepares for a full power assault. Raymond acknowledges Jin's strength, knowing this won't be an easy fight for his apprentice. Rex powers up, his body surging with the golden energy of mana arts. The crowd gasps in awe at the display of a Holy Knight's power, cheering him on. The apprentice knight lunges forward, closing the distance in an instant. Jin calmly assesses his opponent's speed, noting it's far beyond that of the other fighters he's faced. Rex lands a refined and powerful mana-infused force punch on our guy. For the first time, Jin senses a real threat, realizing a direct hit could be fatal. Despite the danger, a smirk plays on his lips as he finds the power of mono arts interesting. He raises his hands, preparing to block the deadly blow Hedon and braces for impact as Rex's glowing fist connects with his crossed arms. The force of the blow sends Jin skidding backward across the arena floor. Just then, Rex coolly confirms his opponent's name and taunts him, vowing to make the wild beast regret looking down on a Holy Knight. The audience is shocked to see Jin being pushed back with one gambler fearing for his money. Claire watches with a worried expression, her concern for him growing. From the stands, Raymond observes the fight intently, sensing that something is off. Jin expertly dodges and weaves through Rex's relentless barrage of mana arts-fueled attacks. He continues to defend, blocking each of the apprentice's strikes while analyzing his movements. Raymond grows suspicious, noticing that Jin isn't fighting with his usual overwhelming aggression, and realizes that Jin, who usually ends fights in one strike, is deliberately dragging this one out. After that, he deduces that his passive movements must be part of a larger strategy. Frustrated by his inability to land a clean hit, Rex lets out a furious roar and prepares a final attack. He channels all his power into one last glowing punch, determined to end the fight. Yet, Jin meets the attack, impossibly deflecting the immense energy of the blow. The crowd shouts in disbelief at the insane feat of defense against a Holy Knight's full power. Jonathan and Claire are left speechless, wondering how it's even possible to parry Mona Arts barehanded. Though successful, the deflection leaves Jin's arm bloodied and torn, a testament to the attack power. A predatory smile spreads across Jin's face as he announces he's finished measuring Rex's power. Cracking his knuckles, he decides it's time to switch from defense to offense and test his opponent's durability. In a flash, he counters with a single brutal punch to Rex's stomach. The apprentice knight chokes, the wind knocked out of him by the sheer force of the unenhanced blow. Raymond is stunned, unable to believe a normal punch could inflict such damage on his mana arts enhanced apprentice. As Rex coughs and struggles for air, Raymond finally understands Jin's terrifying strategy. Jin confirms the Holy Knight's suspicion with a wicked grin. He wasn't looking for an opening. He was simply savoring the fight. Just then, our guy comments on Rex's surprising endurance, curious if his resilience is also a product of mana arts. Despite the pain, Rex glares back with determination, his fighting spirit not yet broken. Preparing to continue his assault, he menacingly asks just how many more hits he can take. But before Jin can land another blow, Raymond appears beside his struggling apprentice. He steps in, holds Rex back, and declares the duel over, conceding defeat, and promises to honor their agreement, officially ending the match to save Rex from further harm. Jin looks on, annoyed that his fun was cut short, calling Raymond a buzzkill. Nevertheless, with his victory secured, he knows his plan to learn Mona arts was a complete success. The crowd goes wild, cheering for the Headcrusher's undeniable victory over a Holy Knight apprentice. The scene then shifts to the imposing and luxurious mansion belonging to the Golden Bug. Inside, the Golden Bug's two sons, Derek and Cedric, are seen stuffing their faces at a lavish feast. Derek complains bitterly about the 10-day delay in their travel plans, cursing the Order Alliance. Cedric cynically agrees, muttering that the Alliance is all talk and no substance. The brothers worry if they will be okay, resigned to their fate with no other options but to wait. The true source of their desperation is revealed. Strange glowing blue growth spreading across their bodies. A close-up shows the grotesque, pulsating nature of their mysterious and terrifying affliction. The scene transitions to the Holy Knight Raymond, who begins to train Jin in the mana arts. He explains that mana arts is the technique of utilizing one's own mana to enhance their body or weapons. While anyone with talent can use it, he notes that one's proficiency determines its true power. To demonstrate, Raymond unleashes his signature move, the Sacred Fire Slash, a technique said to be capable of splitting mountains. The attack cuts down the trees with a single powerful swing. The birds fly away because of the destruction. With his demonstration complete, the Holy Knight stands ready to begin the actual lesson. His apprentice, Rex, immediately fawns over him, gushing about how amazing his master is. But as he gets a bit too close for comfort while showering him with praise, Raymond curtly tells him to back off. Ever the loyal puppy, Rex enthusiastically agrees and bounds away. Jin observes this with a deadpan expression, thinking the boy's behavior reminds him of his own submissive demonic beast. Looking at the destruction, he notes that Raymond's technique is far stronger than the one Rex used in their duel. However, he remains unimpressed, thinking a man of Raymond's caliber should be capable of such feats, even without a special technique. Raymond snaps him back to attention, telling him to focus now that he's seen a first-hand demonstration. The lesson begins with Raymond instructing him on the basics to flex his muscles and feel how they contract, and explains that the first step is to learn to hold and contain mana within one's own muscles. Jin finds the process familiar, realizing it's similar to the initial mana sensing training he received from Claire. As he focuses, a wisp of calm blue mana appears, and he senses something unusual. He's shocked to discover a vast amount of mana already flowing through his body and wonders where it came from. A flashback reveals the source. It's the residual mana Claire had injected into him during his magic training. As he channels Claire's calm mana, his own dark chaotic energy begins to awaken and mix with it. Raymond instructs him to gradually consume the mana, suggesting that moving his body might help the process. Suddenly, he is taken back as an ominous purple aura erupts from Jin. In a matter of moments, Jin successfully manifests his own mana arts, enveloping his sword in a powerful, violent purple energy. Raymond is stunned that he mastered mana arts instantly, but he's more concerned by the nature of the power itself and stares in disbelief at the blade, questioning the source of such an ominous and unsettling mana. However, he notes internally that mana arts reflect one's mental world, making the darkness of this aura deeply troubling. Gazing at his new student, he seriously wonders, Jin, when the world is inside you. Jin, however, seems to revel in the new power, a confident smirk playing on his lips. As he effortlessly practices a few swings, the dark purple energy flowing with his movements as if it were an extension of his own body. While analyzing the new ability, he finds it feels a bit inefficient for the effort required, guessing his proficiency is still low. Despite its perceived flaws, he grins with excitement, declaring the new power cool and eagerly anticipating its use in real combat. Later, as their caravan travels, Claire expresses her amazement at how quickly he mastered mana arts. But Jin gives her all the credit. He then checks on her condition, admitting he felt her mana flow into him when she helped him before. Claire is briefly surprised by his perceptiveness and concern, but she brushes it off with a smile, telling him to consider it a gift for saving her life. At this, our guy thinks there seemed to be too much mana to just brush it off. But thanks to that, he picked up the mana arts quickly. Just then, Rex rides by, scoffing at Jin for getting excited over learning the basics, and condescendingly tells him not to slack off and to remember to be grateful to Lord Raymond for his time. As Jin and Claire stare blankly, Jin wonders if Rex is still bitter about losing their duel. Seeing a perfect opportunity for payback, he grins mischievously, deciding to bruise the apprentice's ego by picking another fight. But just as he contemplates his move, a gauntlet hand slaps the hindquarters of Rex's horse. The startled horse neighs and rears, nearly throwing the surprised apprentice from his saddle. It was Raymond who tells a disappointed Jin that he'll keep his apprentice in check, spoiling his fun. Suddenly, someone shouts, "You idiots!" drawing their attention. The cause of the commotion is his clients who are throwing food and demanding that their meals be served faster. Jin notices the commotion, but Raymond tells him not to worry about it and dismissively explains it's just the usual power trip from their employers, the Golden Bug Sons. After that, he elaborates that since their father died, the two have been binge-eating uncontrollably, throwing tantrums at the slightest delay. The Holy Knight cynically advises Jin that ignoring them is the only way to avoid a headache. Jin, however, senses something is deeply wrong, feeling a strange power that grows stronger the more the brothers eat. As the Golden Bug Sons continue their grotesque feast, the sinister feeling intensifies. Suddenly, one of them cries out in agony as his body begins to twist and mutate horribly. Our guy realizes it feels as if a monster is about to burst out. Just then, his eyes fly open as he senses a massive surge of dark energy. The entire caravan is thrown into chaos when the terrace carrying the brothers' carriage begins to rampage. The massive beast roars in panic and pain, thrashing about wildly and collapses to the ground. A nearby mercenary confirms that the Tarrasque carrying their clients suddenly started rampaging. Raymond's face hardens as he thinks about their client's safety. He quickly rallies his apprentice, shouting for Rex to get ready. Raymond ignites his blade with golden mana and prepares for battle. The two knights leap into action with Raymond ordering Rex to prioritize the client's safety and subdue the Tarrasque, even if it means killing the beast. Rex acknowledges the command as they close in on the rampaging beast. But before they can reach it, a swarm of grotesque, fleshy tentacles erupts from their client's room. The monstrous form of the golden bug abomination reveals itself, screeching horribly. Claire recognizes the creature in terror, identifying it as an abomination. Shaken with fear, she explains that an abomination is a human corrupted by the demonic realm's karma and transformed into a monster. Jin's eye glows a dangerous red as he processes the horrifying revelation that their clients have become a monster. With no time to waste, Raymond grits his teeth and prepares to engage the foul creature. He launches himself at the abomination, his sword glowing brightly, and he unleashes his devastating sacred fire slashed directly at the monster's core. The powerful holy attack slices the abomination cleanly in two. Believing the fight is over, Raymond yells for Rex to clean up the remains. Rex charges in with his own mana-infused attack, ready to finish the job, and strikes the bisected halves of the monster.